With lead contamination becoming a growing concern among those living in New Jersey, the question among scientists is what could be causing the levels of this heavy metal to rise. Cornell University professor of soil chemistry Dr. Murray McBride has been researching toxic chemicals in soil and water for about 20 years and says that the metals, like lead, may persist because of land application of what he calls sewage sludge.
Nobody can get excited about my talking about a problem that's going to come back to bite you in 50 years or 100 years. And yet, we're supposed to be preserving these lands, these farmlands, for our descendants, for future generations. It just seems like there's this knee-jerk reaction in government to claim initially that there's no problem here. And they did that, I remember, on 9/11 when the Twin Towers came down and the fire, the various rescue people were working there without masks, without respirators, and were inhaling toxic fumes.
When asked if sewage sludge could contribute to rising levels of heavy metals like lead in soil, the EPA declined to comment. General Manager and Volunteer Coordinator at New Brunswick Health Store George Street Co-op is also concerned about the application of biosolids on soil.
Sewage sludge fertilizer is basically a sewage treatment plant has two places where things can go once they go into a sewage treatment plant. The one is after treatment, it goes into our waterways. And that's what, certainly all the classes in school that teach you about what sewage treatment plants do, teach you about that. They teach you that it's treated, and after it's treated by, filtration and having bacteria live in it and change it, that it will be discharged into the streams. But what wasn't mentioned to me, at least in my school classes, was that some of the stuff can't actually go into the streams, and that stuff is called sludge, and had to, for a very long time, had to be shunted off and put sort of locked up.
Leary said he thinks the EPA regulations are too relaxed in terms of what heavy metals are checked for in soil and water.
If you sold me a water filter, like a Brita filter, and told me that it only filtered out 9 chemicals, I would throw it away.
In 2015, there were about 3,000 new cases of children in New Jersey under 6 years old with blood lead levels higher or around the toxic standard 10 micrograms of lead per deciliter of blood. As the health of New Jersey children comes into question, the call to understand how deposits of heavy metals are ending up in soil and water is important.
Once you add heavy metals to the soil, they're pretty much there permanently.
Sewage sludge, or what the EPA refers to as biosolid land application, is a growing concern among university scientists who think it may be adding to New Jersey's historic lead contamination issue.
On the one hand, the sludges have gotten better to some degree for certain heavy metals. There are other heavy metals they're not testing for. They do test for mercury still, but they don't test for, say, thallium, or for tin, or for antimony, and all of these are potentially toxic. Why don't they test for those? Well, because they weren't on the original list of 9 or 10 metals that the 503 rule addressed in 1993.
This topic is very controversial, and there is a divide between university scientists and members of the USDA. Rufus Cheney of the USDA says biosolids are 100% safe for land application.
We don't use the term sewage sludge anymore. We use the term biosolids. Sewage sludge is not, it's the word you use if you're trying to speak out against the use of biosolids. Biosolids is the regulated term at EPA in today's regulatory marketplace.
New Jersey is a state that has over 100 registered Superfund sites and was historically part of what Professor McBride calls the lead belt. Professor Heckman holds the same view and says there aren't any laws to specifically protect soil.
In the 90s, what kind of brought this about, too, was that they used to be dumping sewage sludge way about 100 miles off the Jersey shore, and then some of it ended up washing onto the beaches. And then so people were demanding some other place that this be a place, and don't dump it in the ocean. They can't dump it in the ocean. And so the soil became a new dumping place. Well, if we want to use that word, or beneficial use, depending on one's point of view about that.
While some university professors believe that biosolids may be adding heavy metals to soil, Dr. Rufus Cheney believes the opposite. Cheney says that some heavy metals may exist in soil, but it doesn't necessarily mean that plants will absorb them.
When you study these PPCPs in that circumstance, at the concentrations that occur in normal biosolids, there's been no significant increase in these compounds in the edible parts of plants. There's just a lot of junk research and people that want to make a big showing about something like how dangerous these things are. You can measure them, but does that mean they're going to move to food? No, it doesn't. Biosolids, because it has been controversial, and there have been people who are sure it's going to kill us all. Otherwise, I'm not dead yet, and I don't know why not.
Another reason why New Jersey may contain higher concentrations of heavy metals like lead is due to it being an old state. As a historically old state, New Jersey was originally the site of booming industries such as Ford Automotive.
But it is true that the Northeast, which includes New Jersey, in the northeastern United States, was once, an industrial powerhouse. And my understanding is Jersey City, of course, is the center of a lot of that. And there was a huge Ford plant at Mahwah. I don't know if that's a town or if that's just the name of the plant, but that Ford plant was like probably the biggest industrial plant in the United States, producing massive numbers of vehicles. And they dumped a tremendous amount of toxic paint waste, among other things, in that would be Hudson County.
As more research points to New Jersey children being at risk for blood-lead contamination, there is a push for university students to understand how and why heavy metals like lead still exist in soil and water.
New Jersey is an old state. Lots of houses had exterior lead paint. You go back 100 years, nearly every wooden domicile had lead paint. So there's a legacy of lead paint in the soils. You're also a high population density, high automotive density, Bridgegate. There's there has been, until lead was taken out of gasoline, substantial lead deposition along the roadways of New Jersey.
Professor McBride said it's up to university students to ask government officials hard questions.
So I think young people should be asking hard questions about why are you, to government officials and whoever, why are you always choosing the short-term, easy way out?
With government officials and university scientists at odds on subjects like biosolid application and research showing lead persistence in soil and water, it is clear that the youth should be asking hard questions about the future of soil and water in the state of New Jersey.